Wow, okay. Cool. I'm live and I've never done a live stream before, so this is interesting. Um yeah, just trying to get myself together, innit? Hey, how am I doing? Hello. I look like shit. But I'm okay. I mean, no, I'm not okay, but I'm very far from being okay. And so a lot of it is talking, trying to talk anyway. Um get my thoughts in out. Um, there's people around, so sometimes I feel like a bit kind of. Anyway, there's people around. There's people watching. So the whole point of this is just I still feel very cowed, basically. 5 videos in a row, which is a bad idea because I know I could live stream. I've just done that. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, it's like messed up my phone now, so I can't actually. It's like I can't delete any of the other videos for some reason, so it's all messed up. But yeah, so this girl just walked past me, and my instant oh, she looks very nice. I obviously look like a complete mess. She looks very nice. I obviously look like a complete mess, and a lot of it is to do with myself. Like just looking after myself. The level of being able to just even get up in the morning most of the times. Um, what else? Yeah, I was like, oh, my things going through my head like, oh, she's got got herself together anyway. Um, she's looked after. Was my it's not necessarily true. But I remember like waking up in the morning and brushing my hair every day and doing all of this stuff and just not having the energy to do any of it. Not having the energy to do any of it. Um, so things that have been like that I have said in my other videos that I have said in mine is one that I'm doing now basically is the Deetran sort of side of things, which is obviously the sort of the difficult part of like changing your name over and all of this stuff, and then is presenting basically like going into the bank and sort of going, oh yeah, I need to access my bank, and then kind of looking and going, well, the face doesn't match the name, and having to go through security every time because I don't have my passport. I can't get my passport because again, my name doesn't really match my face anymore. Like, okay, maybe I get another name change, get another name change my name again. Um, get my passport back and stuff like that, and just continue living as I before. Um, so that's an interesting principle, because names do have power, and I've been going by James again, which is again it's interesting because before people were always very interested in what my name was, and they would always guess like Nathaniel or Nathan. Yeah, that just sort of goes to show the level of linearity that most human beings have. Is they see a girl called Natalie who's trans, and they're like, "Oh, well, you must have been Nathan before, right?" Like, No. um, just to clear up the name once and for all, I chose Natalie again because that's what my mum was originally going to call me if I was a girl. Um, and I was like looking at wrestlers at the time, and Natalie Hart, Bret Hart's sister, at the time was wrestling, and she was world champion. And she's definitely the kind of woman I saw myself being, or would like to be if I had the opportunity. And so Natalia, it was just too rushing for me, so I decided, I'd just Natalie or Natasha. Um, and my mum's said, no, I was going to call you Natalie. I was like, oh, great, cool. So go with that. Jane, I chose my middle name as Jane because, essentially, Jane Doe, because I was a nobody. Jane Doe, because I was a nobody. And, it sounds, well, this was my reasoning. So, this was my reasoning behind it. Like to show solidarity with all of the Jane Does, all of the women who will be found without being claimed, lost and never known and never identified. I felt a lot like that on a lot of levels of just not being found. So Jane Doe, as well as a Vsauce video actually, as it goes, that he did on mental torture, whereby this girl, her name was Jane, and she was locked in a dark room, chained to the bed for 8 years, since she was a baby. And she was only fed through the box on a door. And when she came out, she was completely desensitized to the world. She'd never really used her legs, her arms much. She was, malnourished. But more than that, she never had any mental stimulus. She'd grown up in a dark room. She'd never known anything other than a black room. And watching her walk around actually for the first time was really powerful for me. And seeing that on a Vsauce video as well, it spoke to me on so many levels, about just being hidden away, about just being quieted. And so Jane was an important name for me. Jane Doe. Jane, the girl who was locked up and never saw the light of day until she was 8 years old. And watching her walk around eating grass for the first time was, it's like you could almost feel it through her experience in a way. And Taylor, because Taylor is one of the biggest names in England for industrial engineering and things like that. And I wanted to, being, or at least identifying with kind of like being a masculine woman, like Natalia from the WWE, like the wrestlers, the WWE, like MMA fighters like Ronda Rousey and other kind of women like that, and Dykes. I came out at Dyke March in particular. Taylor is an engineering name, so Taylor was like a strong kind of industrial sort of, I definitely saw myself as kind of being a pirate. I'd be working the docks, but I'd be like slinging barrels of rum on the boat, not, turning tricks. Or at least that's what I'd like to have thought anyway. I didn't turn many tricks when I was transitioning, when I was so yeah, this is actually quite good because I know it's a live stream, so it's not just eating up my megabytes of storage, which I can't delete anymore. I'm a bit cold though. This hostel's quite cold. So I've been arrested by the police more times than I can count on a hand. And it's always been for bogus reasons. And even going to prison was bogus as well, because what happened was a judge in Taunton had written a warrant for me to be in court. I couldn't attend. The case that I was being seen in court had already been won, but the judge wasn't sure if the judge in another part of the country, in London, actually had still a warrant out for me, even though I explained the court couldn't communicate with each other for some reason. This is all a bit rubbish, to be honest. So the judge in Taunton couldn't speak to the judge in Wandsworth to see if I'd actually had this charge spent. Ended up putting a warrant out for me, arresting me, taking me from my home, taking me all the way to Taunton to face trial in front of Taunton judge. And then the Taunton judge just sent me to prison for a week. It was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you can't send me to prison for no reason. I haven't done anything. And yet they did anyway. And I spent a week in jail. I came out and I was completely livid, and it triggered my mum's latest breakdown, which ended up with me being homeless. Because again, she blamed me, and I didn't know she'd been talking to my cousin, who is not a nice person, basically. She'd been just poisoning her mind, poisoning the well, basically, for a long time, because my mum had hopes of repairing the family and things like that. So despite me vehemently saying, I do not want to know that person, I don't like her at all, and I don't want to know any of the family, she was still on the phone, oh, maybe we can repair all the damage. And it was a very childish, innocent thing to want, to have a family, and to want me to be involved in it, because I'd always been the outcast, you see. I'd always been the packy child, even though they don't admit it. I'd always been the packy child that they never wanted. So, and they were jealous of me because my mum only had me. There was brothers and sisters for them. There was a lot of jealousy. The fact that I spent more time with my grandmother than they did, because my grandmother essentially took over a duty of care when my mother couldn't. All of this stuff. My life, basically, in a nutshell. Everyone's got a story, and it's not the story I'm trying to like get across as so much as to like the heartache of like and the stress, the mental stress of doing it on your own, not having people around you to understand you, to be on your side. Even your own mother turns on you, and that's something that's really, for me, I thought unfathomable. But they wore her down, and the alcoholism wore her down as well. Being on her own, being my own. So I've already spoken about how much I dislike the police. They have too much power. They overexert their power, and they're too happy. It's just like happy psychopaths going around doing psychopathic things, and it's like, but we can get away with it because we've got a license to get away with it. Yeah, it's fighting that level of power because they're in an established base. Considering I did actually, one of my fondest memories with my mum was writing an essay on the peelers, and she helped me find out all of this information about the peelers. And I did my presentation at school about the peelers. The original, they were just a paid gang. That was it. Just some cities just decided that they were going to police London their way, and the army was too stretched and too thin at the time. Different wars in Spain and America and all of this to be just bothered. And a couple of backroom deals with Parliament, and they're recognised as being the official law enforcement in London at the time of Sir Robert Peel. It's just basically a thug who just went around going, you want to be in my gang? Cool. The government will leave us alone. We can basically do whatever we want. And that's the level of power that they have. So yeah, I think that I dislike that level of power in general. When someone has that much autonomy over you, but you can't do anything back, it becomes oppression. Because even as the monarchy realised, this could be like a secondary military that we very rarely use, or use more occasionally than the army. There's not need to bring out big guns. We can just have like a medium police force, right? Big heads in. And so, yeah, it violence and gangs because they're like the police without any regulation. Um, there's some regulation with the police. There's some accountability. But the problem with police is there's no accountability for them up to after they arrest you. See, so um, once you're arrested, they don't have to face any judgments. So as long as they can kind of like manipulate you into a situation where you will be, in uh, a position for yourself, like chess, get you into checkmate basically, because that's what they do. They just play mental chess. If anyone's had any experiences with the police, they're not allowed to come into your house without a warrant, but they're more than capable of being able to put their foot in the door and go, well, if you don't open the door, we'll just knock it down and we'll just say that we had reason to suspect that there was a crime going on in the house, which is more than enough reason. They don't need the warrant. They just need to say we had a suspicion, and that's enough. That's too much power. It's too much power to be able to just kick a door in and kind of go, well, I had a reasonable suspicion that a crime was going on in here. I don't need a warrant. You're under arrest. This is essentially what they do. And of course, when they have warrants, it's always to bust weed dealers. Like the very few occasions you see a small-time heroin addict, he's like got an oven and he's got like a couple of pounds of heroin in there. And you're like, we've caught one of the biggest heroin dealers ever. And you're like, no, you haven't. You caught like a small-time heroin dealer with a couple of pounds of like heroin. Like the big fish, they all exist in like the levels of parliament and monarchy that are allowed to get away with those kinds of things. So they're narcissists, and to be caught with that is the thing that will be how and why they destroy your life. Like, for them, it's just a game. So, detransitioning, I've spoken about it in 5 videos. But just to get some more of my thoughts together about how it's sort of gone is my passport. Because I don't have a passport, basically I'm at the whim of the government. And even though I want to get a camera and go down and actually undercover these people, I can't because I haven't really got my shit together enough to do any of that. So it's just my word against theirs, and no one's listening to me anyway because the smear campaign against me was so successful. I did most of the work myself by being upset, because that's the one rule of narcissism, is you're not allowed to get angry and you're not allowed to get upset. Everything else is apparently free game. So if you might maybe go out of the way and like, you ruin their life as well, like, ha ha ha, wait. It's like fucking, grown up adults acting like kids is scary, especially when you realise that they're just kids. Adult kids. They're not adults. Yeah. So, yeah. The government's supposed to help, but they don't.